Hello, Thor people. Let's start off in America. And this is the stock price for Walmart, going back to 1998. But the important bit to look at is during the recession thing that's come and gone, where the stock price went up and up because everyone expected that people would only be able to afford Walmart prices. Well, it's been up and up and up, and now it's come all the way down again. It seems that people can't even afford Walmart prices. Wall Street Journal Business: Downturns ugly trademark, steep, lasting drop in wages. In California, former auto worker Maria Gregg was out of work 5 months last year before landing a new job at nearly a 20% pay cut. I think Maria was quite lucky. In Massachusetts, Kevin Cronin, who lost his $150,000 a year job as a money manager in early 2009, is now frothing cappuccinos at Starbucks for $8.85 an hour. In Wisconsin, Dale Sabo, a former manufacturing manager with 2 master's degrees, has been searching years for a job comparable to the one he lost in 2003. He's now a school janitor. They are among the lucky. There are 14.5 million people on the unemployment rolls, including 6.5 million who have been jobless for more than 6 months. But the declines in their fortunes points to a signature outcome of the long downturn in the labour market. Even at times of high unemployment in the past, wages have been very slow to fall. Economists describe them as sticky, to an extent rarely seen in recessions since the Great Depression. Wages for a swathe of the labour force this time have taken a sharp and swift fall. MLive.com, M for Michigan, I believe. City of Flint hopes to avoid state takeover of finances by borrowing $20 million. Flint, Michigan. The city of Flint is moving forward with a controversial plan to borrow $20 million to cover its debt. I'll stop there, and I'll repeat it, I think. The city of Flint is moving forward with a controversial plan to borrow $20 million to cover its debt. That's the Flint that couldn't afford to pay its police force all week long, so closed at the weekends. Boston.com, Evergreen Solar to close new plant at Devons. Evergreen Solar Inc., which received $58 million in state aid to open a factory in 2008 at the former military base of Devons, announced today that it would shut plant and let 800 workers go by the end of this quarter. The solar panel plant is a cornerstone of Governor Deval Patrick's effort to make Massachusetts a hub for the emerging clean energy industry. But Evergreen has been struggling in the face of weak prices and competition from cheaper operations in China, where the government has offered solar companies generous subsidies to locate there. Evergreen itself has a partnership with a company based in China and previously announced plans to shift some work to the overseas location. See, the idea is as the carbon energy goes away, it'll be replaced by things like solar energy, and Evergreen was there to take advantage of this. But unfortunately, it won't just be evergreen solar energy that'll be used when the carbon energy goes. It'll be a lot of this energy, elbow grease, manpower, and it'll be wanted cheap. Where do you find cheap manpower? Not in Massachusetts. FT.com, Financial Times, not just printing money but making it too. The Fed released its preliminary 2010 results on Monday, and they show a humdinger whopper of a profit. From the release, the Federal Reserve Board on Monday announced preliminary unaudited results indicating that the Reserve Bank provided for payments of approximately $78 billion of their estimated 2010 net income of $80 billion to the Treasury. In other words, they made $80 billion in profit at the Fed, and they're handing over $78 billion to the Treasury. That's up from about 40-odd billion last year. So they're doing really well at the Fed. Hey, making money, it's really easy, no problem. Business Insider Money Game. Here are the key points from the new Rubini interview that everyone will be talking about. Just key points brought off by Business Insider. The US is not like the EU for one key reason. While California is a similar state to Greece, California collapse wouldn't cause the collapse of the dollar, whereas the collapse of one of the pigs could destroy the common currency. Germany has been intransigent and not helpful in helping solve the debt problem, and its aggressive focus on exports has been detrimental. A split euro, a weak strong, makes no sense, since no monetary union has ever been comprised just of weaker players. The solution is this. Germany need to allow for cheap money and a bigger bailout fund in exchange for much stricter penalties on fiscal irresponsibility. So Rubini just going with the normal stuff there, that it's going to be very painful for Germany to work it out, but it's up to Germany to work it out. Financial Times: ECB intervenes as debt crisis deepens. The European Central Bank intervened to prop up the Eurozone bond markets on Monday as political leaders and bankers warned the debt crisis was deepening amid fears Portugal was edging closer to an international bailout. Although European Union officials denied they were talking about a bailout for Portugal, the ECB had to buy the country's government bonds to stop the market selling off steeply before important debt auctions in Lisbon today, Wednesday. They'll go all right because the European Central Bank will see that they go all right. So the European Central Bank, central banks that can make money from nowhere, can make a lot of things happen. Financial Times: China and Japan to the rescue, but with saviors like these... All this is from the article. All this follows Beijing's pledges to help Europe out of its sovereign debt crisis, with reports of plans to buy $6 billion worth of Spanish bonds, among other efforts. What might particularly thrill the battered countries of the Eurozone, however, is the Tuesday news that Japan, the company that Western economists have been lecturing for years about its high debt levels and questionable economic management, has pitched in to join the Eurozone rescue effort. Japanese Finance Minister Yoshihiko Noda said in Tokyo on Tuesday that the government would use its forex reserves, which are over $1 trillion worth, to purchase more than 20% of Eurozone bonds to be issued in the coming weeks, and that's aimed at assisting Ireland. Everyone wants the Ponzi to keep going, so central banks can just print up the money and do with as they think fit, just to keep it all going. But don't forget, it's just being kept going on fresh air money. There's no reality to this at all, if there ever was. Credit write-downs, an interesting article if the country Turkey interests you in any way. And it's called Turkey's Audacious Experiment in Postmodern Monetary Policy by Edward Hugh, the Euro expert. The recent decision of the Turkish Central Bank to lower rather than raise interest rates in an attempt to quench the inflation flames that many feel are threatening to engulf what some call the overheating economy, has led to a good deal of heart-searching and consternation in the economic and financial press of late. After all, at the end of the day, aren't they doing exactly the opposite of what the textbook says they should do? They're lowering interest rates in an attempt to quell inflation. It's an interesting read. Finish with Financial Times again. UK fuel poverty and the security of supply. Its UK household utility bills could double every 5 years until 2020. Well, that's just double to 2015 and then double again to 2020. That's the view of UniCredit, which has been looking into affordability in a review of the utility sector. And those doublings are taking into account a reasonable amount of inflation. Not no great amount of inflation, but double by 2015 and doubled again the 2015 price to 2020. Energy is going to become increasingly expensive and thought about and worried about and fought about.